ACE takes an innovative approach to commissioning research. The research is all problem-driven. It's trying to understand what the specific type of corruption is that we are seeking to address, rather than just focusing on corruption in general. It's looking at how we can understand the specific context in which it is taking place, rather than developing generic understandings of where corruption happens or why it happens. And it's trying to assess evidence of what actually works in practice when you try different forms of policy implementation. So across all three strands, although they approach the question in different ways and with a different focus, there's a strong desire to learn from them in order primarily to inform better policy development, and that way help us to tackle corruption more effectively. Quite a lot of the ACE research has had a real impact on policy development. We've had some really important work on understanding red flags for procurement corruption risks, and have worked closely with other organisations like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to develop tools to understand corruption risks in procurement more effectively. We've also worked closely on issues like how to understand better the drivers of illicit financial flows, the way that kleptocrats are able to work with enablers to move their money into some of the more established democracies. We've looked at things like the functioning of corruption at the local level in cross-border trading, for instance, between Kenya and Uganda, or at the provision of medicines in Malawi. And we've also looked at things like how you implement effective ethical training for civil servants and police in countries like Nepal and Bangladesh. My focus in the anti-corruption evidence programme has been to zero in on specific issues, specific problems, try to understand why corruption is happening in this particular setting, but also what it's actually doing. So corruption is always bad, of course, we want to get rid of it, but it's not always obvious that the reasons that corruption is happening is because of bad people. Sometimes people are forced into corruption because they have no alternative. On other occasions, they are corrupt because they are bad people. But if we try and tar everybody with the same brush and take the same approach to every instance of corruption, we're unlikely to have the kind of impact we need. And so getting away from the holistic approach to trying to identify what the problem is at a macro level and develop responses at that same level is the only way that we're going to get down to the specifics of what we actually need to do in particular instances.